Hey guys, I'm Jason, the 50s kid, and I've got something different for you this week. This is a 2003 Mercedes C32 AMG. Belongs to my neighbor. He was having some transmission problems. Apparently, he's got a C 2500 code, and that's like a common problem with these Mercedes transmissions. This has the 722.6 transmission, and that was used in like everything for like 15 years. I believe it's like 2000 to 2015, I believe, are the years. Like if you had a Mercedes, you have this transmission, and if you have this code, you definitely have this problem. And the problem is the conductor plate in the transmission, which is on top of the transmission valve body, goes bad, and you just need to swap it out. It's actually pretty easy, pretty straightforward. We're gonna drop the transmission pan, obviously drain the fluid first, drop the transmission pan, remove a couple of bolts, and drop the transmission valve body down. We'll pull it over to the bench, we'll flip it over, we'll remove the conductor plate, install a new one, and pop it back in the transmission. There's also a little plug, the connector for the plug for the transmission actually has an O-ring around it. That O-ring eventually dries up and goes bad. So we're just gonna pop that out and just install a new plug, and that'll be it. It'll be good to go. So let's get started. So as you see, it's got a P2500. I believe I said C2500 a second ago, but it's a P2500. Transmission has impermissible transmission ratio. So that would be the code, and that's what we're gonna fix. So this is everything that you're going to need to do this job. We actually bought this kit from FCP Euro, I believe. We'll throw a link down in the description. This is the culprit right here. This is the conductor plate. As you see, it's got all of the conductors built in. Most transmissions usually have just like a wire loom that's going to go up and like plugs that are going to connect onto the solenoids, which go right here. This one, they opted for this conductor plate. See, that's where the thing plugs in, and it apparently goes bad. So it's not very expensive. The whole kit, I think, was somewhere between $200 and $300, so that's great. The kit comes with this plug which goes on the transmission dipstick tube, and there's this little red thing that plugs in. Once you put this in, that's it. It's like a one-time use. It locks it. Mercedes apparently doesn't want you checking the transmission fluid or adding more, so they do this one-time thing. And because of that, that means there is no dipstick tube with the transmission, so you have to buy this service tool, which basically is your transmission dipstick tube. It doesn't stay in there. You just use it when you're refilling it. You check the level, pull it out, and then that's it. It's like, that's what that's for, so we paid extra for that. Comes with a gasket, and this is that plug that I was talking about. This part is inside the transmission, and this plug, here, let's open this up so you guys can see this. This plug basically sticks through the body of the transmission, and here's that O-ring that I was talking about. So it sticks through the body, plugs into there, and then the outside plug plugs into here. So this is the case of the transmission, and that's the O-ring that protects it keeps the fluid in, and that's the O-ring that goes bad. So you could just change the O-ring, but these kits just come with this part, so it's really easy. It kind of just locks in like that. So there we go, and comes with a new washer for the drain plug, and apparently there is a second O-ring. That's right, there are two O-rings for this thing. Comes with a new filter, and then it comes with all the fluid we should need. So the place to jack up the car is actually right through this cutout, but this is smaller than my round jack pad on my jack, so I elected to remove this belly pan. It was really easy. I just reached underneath, and there were 4 bolts. Here, and here. They were 8 millimeters, so I just kind of pulled that off and slid it out, and now we'll be able to jack up on the frame, the front of the frame, which is right basically in this circle. So that's it. Underneath the car here, this way is the engine, this way is the back of the car. And we have a drain plug. It is a 5mm Allen. Got my drain pan underneath here. Boom. So we saw the copper crush washer fall. You do want to replace that. I believe this transmission has not been flushed, at least not since the owner has owned it. Looks pretty old. You do want to flush I mean, Mercedes says it's lifetime fluid, but that's bullshit. You should flush this thing at least every like 50,000 miles, maybe more if you really care about your car. This thing has 186,000 miles, so yeah, it's a good thing we're changing it, because we should have changed it probably 100 ago, or 150. All right, that should be enough. You're never gonna get all the fluid out this way because that bung is actually recessed a little bit, so there's just a level of fluid in there. So you're gonna be prepared when we let this pan down, it's gonna drip on you or it's gonna splash you. All right, now we've just got 4 or 6 T30s all the way around the pan. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna leave the rear 2 just on like a little loose, and I'll tilt the pan down from the rear just so I can do a little more controlled kind of a thing. Or actually, you know what? I think maybe I'll do it from the front, because I'll be able to sort of like hold the pan and just use this to remove the final 2 bolts and get the pan down in a controlled manner. It's usually the best way. So I'll take the rear 4 all the way off. This has weird little clips, these metal kind of clips that hold the side of the pan on, so just be aware it's a 2-piece thing. With Torx, you want to crack the thing first, and then you don't want to use a power tool because, you know, usually make sure there's no junk in the center of these bolts, because if there is and you don't get the tool all the way bottomed out, you're going to strip these things out. So this one's loose. And it could be that this pan is so stuck on that this won't really matter. No, see, I got it loose a little bit so I can feel that it's loose. So now we'll crack this one. Position your pan so that it's good. So you can see how we're coming down in the back there. I'll do this one. Looks like that brought the whole little cover down. And I'll just do this one. I saw where it went, and we're just gonna carefully, oh, there we go. It wasn't too messy. I will tip the pan horizontal. There's probably some magnets in it, so I don't want to completely tip it. And we'll be good there. In fact, I'm gonna take this pan out from the car. Now we need to remove the connector. It's just this little lock thing up here. Let's see if I can do it without blocking the camera. All right, I think I need a little tool to get this thing off. Sneak back here and there we go. Pop that, pull the plug out. Of course, nice and oily. And there's a 7mm nut right in the center of this, and that's what actually keeps this on. Looks like I need a little extension. All right, let's see if this works. A little 1-inch extension. That should be loose enough. You definitely have to pull this out first. Oh, and the little ring came off. That's great. See if I can grab it out with a needle nose. And that was just the right tool. There we go. So there's 2 O-rings on this. One here, one there. They actually look in pretty decent condition. There are 4 bolts on the front, and there are 4 bolts on the rear, and that's what holds this in. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. 9 bolts in total. See, most people don't understand a tool like this. You're not supposed to, the thing is not supposed to have enough torque to crack a bolt loose. You are always meant to manually crack the bolt loose and use the tool to spin the bolt off. That's why when Milwaukee came out with the more powerful ones, I was like, that's just useless to me. I think they did that because most people don't understand how this tool works. They just, I don't blame them, you know, they did what their customers wanted. It's just their customers are wrong. When you don't know if the bolts are all the same, it's a good practice to just kind of keep them organized where you're laying them down. So I'm going to keep one in there and loose, and I'll tell you why in a little bit. I'm going to keep these two corners. Looks like they're pretty much all the same. There's probably one more right here. Yeah, it looks like those are the only bolts you can remove underneath. So I just got one more right here. Yep, that was it. See how all the fluid just started coming off of it right then? See drips here and here, and then all the way in the back. I knew that was gonna happen. That's why I left two of the bolts on, one in the front and one in the back. That way it'd keep the thing from falling down. If you didn't do that, it would fall down and just make a big mess, be uncontrollable. It also helps to have a really big drain pan for this. I'll show you what mine looks like after this. I'm just gonna take that middle one all the way out so that I get it dropped down a little more. See, that makes more of the fluid kind of drain. Very nice. Don't let that bolt fall in your drain pan. All these bolts are the same. All right, guys, I'm getting a little impatient. I think I'm gonna go for it. The way we're gonna do this is to try to carefully make sure we don't drop these bolts. That's what I'm afraid of. So I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna grab it. Not all the way loose. Okay, got the bolt. I'm just holding it up in my hand. Now I'm gonna do this one over here. Same deal. And now I'm just gonna lower this guy onto my pan. Easy. I tell you what, having this pan is so helpful. I'm gonna show you what it looks like. It's awkward here, but you see this pan right here? This is a big 23-liter drain pan that I got at Walmart. Super helpful for a job like this because it's so big and so wide. It basically, you know, when the transmission drips, it's gonna drip from like all sides. You know, it's gonna drip from the front all the way to the back. If you have a small drain pan, you're not gonna be able to capture both the front and the back, you know? So it's super helpful to have a really big drain pan. It really helps with this, keeps things clean. So, as you guys can see, this is the part. Let's get ourselves orientated. Looks like it goes like that. So that's the right side up. This just comes off. These are probably super fragile after all this time, so I'm just being super careful. Yeah, you know, I just don't want to snap anything, so let me grab a tool. See, that's all you need. Need a T30. This tool is a different matter. This is an impact, so you can use these. We'll just lay these on the side here. These just pull out. I'm just gonna put them right where they go, right next to where they go. It's slippery. All right, we'll move on. We'll come back. This guy is a little stuck. Okay, using the paper of the towel. There we go. I had a very light touch there, guys. Don't worry. Don't grab it hard and wrench on, you know, just don't squeeze it. I believe this guy lifts off, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see. What kind of fasteners does it have, if any? Just got this guy here, which, yeah, I believe this just lifts off. There we go. go. There was just a little, this is what I snapped right here, which was going right in here. So there's just going to be a little debris in there, a little probably chunk of plastic, which we're going to turn this over and get it out. This is what broke off inside the thing. So we're just going to lay this guy in now that we got that chunk of plastic out. Looks like that just snaps right down on. Because again, it's not plugging into any of the metal here. It's just, you know, the electrical is coming in here and going to these solenoids. That's all it is. We're just placing those right down in. I'm only going to run them down with this. Light touch. And I'll get a ratchet to tighten them down. Okay. I mean, this is going into plastic right here, so I'm not doing it too hard at all. It's screwing into metal, but there's a big plastic block, you know. Now these guys go back on. And that's it. This thing's ready to go back in the car. So, all right guys, here's an important thing. See this on the side right here? This is actually what changes the gear. And this is the physical thing that changes the gear. So this has to slide into this lever right here. You got to be super careful that you do that correctly. Otherwise, your car will not go. So I'm going to feel where that is. Yeah, I think I got it. Okay, let's reach for a bolt. It's nice, this thing is kind of light enough that I can hold it from an angle while I get one of these bolts started. Make sure we're at the angle there. I want to get one on the back here. Okay, now I'm going to need to get my head where you guys are so I can make sure that I got that thing slid on properly. I think I did, but I want to make sure. Yes, I got it. I got it on perfectly. So now we're just going to put all these bolts back on. We'll hand thread them in first, then we'll bolt them up. So if you're kind of unsure about how to torque bolts by hand and stuff, by feel, just look up the torque specs for this. I'll see if I can do that. I'll put them down below. But I've got enough experience and feel at this that I know by feel what it's supposed to be and what would be too much. So we're taking a look at the pan here. This is actually the magnet that captures all of the sort of metal shavings that come off of the steels, and some of well, it'll catch the metal shavings coming off the steels. It won't catch the friction particles from the clutches. Those will get trapped up in your filter. But I would expect this to be a lot more caked with this sort of goo. Well, And it's really not, which tells me that this thing has been changed once before, which is nice. Somebody, whoever owned this vehicle before, maintained it. So it's pretty cool. You want to wipe it off, just get all the goo off of it. And we got to figure out where it goes back in. Usually there will be some indentations. We found this, see, that's where we found it. And we found this sort of right about there. So I'm guessing this goes here in the corner. Anyway, we're gonna get this wiped out, kind of cleaned off, and new one put back in the car. This is the old gasket. Yeah, the fact that the old gasket is still supple and pliable tells me that this was serviced before. You know, it looks to me like the original spot for this was right here, because that's the indentation. So that's where I'm going to put it. All right, we get our new gasket. Nice thick gasket. Much better than on the BMWs. I was just talking to cameraman Drew, and we were talking about this, and he was like, yeah, all the Germans, that's what they do best, right? Gaskets. I'm like, not the BMW people. BMW is like the GM of Germany. So if you guys remember, I dropped that gasket, that copper crush washer. So we'll just use the new one. I'm gonna leave it like this so that I remember that I need to tighten that underneath the car. And we're just gonna not forget to pop the filter in. This is a very important thing. Just kind of pops in. And now we're gonna put our pan right back up in place. So these bolts have to grab the pan. That's why they have those little indentations in them. Loosely put these up into place right now. We'll tighten them all down once we have everything on. So I just double checked to make sure that the little lip was on the transmission pan in all cases, and it was. And we're gonna do, well, actually we can't do this one yet because the cover is integral. So we'll do this one last, that other one last. You can see that I'm using the tool like a ratchet. Once you get a couple of the corners tight, you want to go back over the ones you already think are tight because they're not going to be as tight as you think they are. So this thing, you see how it has a little pattern on it. It's got this straight slot here and these sort of different looking slots here. The straight slot is right here, up on the side, right here. So it just goes that way. So we're gonna put it in like that. Make sure you got both the O-rings on it. Okay, now carefully, I will use the nut to get it on all the way. See, I don't think I'm in yet. I gotta push harder. Okay, just needed to push that guy in a little more. Yep, now I feel it grabbing. And I'm just going to do this by hand. Because it's a small bolt and it's going into plastic. So I'll be very careful. That feels good to me. Yeah, that's not coming out. Now we just take our plug, stick that guy in. There, looks good there. And we just turn this, and that's it. There was a little zip tie right here that kind of snapped off. I think I'm gonna replace that because that helped this, this top cover stay on, see? So if I don't replace it, it's gonna pop off. So let me get a zip tie. I think it might be easier if I pull this out and down. Yeah, way easier. Done. Now we can get this final bolt and plate in. Little cover plate. Incidentally, I could have taken this cover plate off of this nut first, but I didn't. You can do it differently. Let's see, it looks like this plate snaps under this metal up here. Yeah. Let's tighten up this drain bolt. Okay, copper crush washers are pretty soft, unlike aluminum ones, so not too tight. That's plenty. And we are done. We can put fluid in this thing. All right, this is the little cap that goes over the dipstick tube, and it has a little red lock in it, and you'll have to break off the red lock, pull this guy out, and we're gonna stick our funnel in. On this particular car, it's way in the back here. It's gonna be too hard for you guys to see, but just kind of look around and you'll find it. So I think what we're gonna do is we'll add, I think we'll add about 4 liters, and then we'll check it with the dipstick and see where we are. Maybe I'll check it after 3. We'll just see how it goes. It's one of these. This is an interesting bottle that we got from FCP Euro. It's got an integrated spout. I haven't seen that before in a bottle this size. You usually see that in a 5-gallon, or is it 5-gallon? Yeah, it's a 5-gallon. Big 5-gallon drums, they come like that. Let's just make absolutely sure. Yeah, we're in. It'd be really embarrassing if we weren't in the hole. You don't want to be in the wrong hole, guys. Okay, see where we are. 1. The bottles are meant to be, done this way. So you notice it's not glugging right now. We have put in about 3.5 maybe. So let's go a little more. There is a cold section and a warm section. You see 25 degrees Celsius there, 80 degrees Celsius there. So right now we're at 25, that's ambient temperature. We want the level to be obviously, between the 2 marks, between these 2 marks. So full would be up here and cold would be, or, minimum would be here. Full would be there. Let's see where we are. Things are kind of dirty and oily back here. I don't want to get any of that and put it into the transmission, so I'm just being careful. I just want to push this all the way in, hopefully until it stops. I don't know if I'm trying to go past a curve or not. I think that's it. So let's check it. See where we are. We basically have fluid all over this thing because there's fluid in that tube. That's kind of a tricky thing about this. We might have to wait a little bit, wait for that fluid to kind of drain all the way down. Let's do it again and see what we get. Yeah, we gotta wait. Wait for this fluid to drain down. It's also possible that we have filled it like all the way to the hot side. We had the valve body off and a lot of the fluid was draining from the torque converter. When we turn this car back on and get the transmission pump, fluid pump going, it's gonna pump a lot of the fluid back up into the system and the level will probably go down. So I think we're gonna do that. We'll kick the car on just for 10 seconds or so and get the fluid kind of moving, and then we'll shut it off and check it again. Yeah, so now we don't have really any, like I can see there's traces on it basically, and probably this is the level right here. It's kind of tricky reading a dipstick tube sometimes, but I can tell we don't have enough. So we're gonna put a little more in, but we definitely need it to start it. So we've put in about 3.5 liters so far. We're gonna check it here. That's how far it goes in. Hard to tell. Always so hard to tell. Let's let it drain a little bit. Check it again. Guys, you see how the level is, hold on. You see how the level is up to right here? It's actually, it seems like it's too high right now, but we're gonna go start the transmission again, start the car again, and we'll check it again. So check this out, guys. I turned the car on just for a second again, and now we are at the minimum. You see how we're right at this minimum line? So that's what you kind of have to do on this. You have to get the fluid circulating again. It's going to be different if you are just draining your fluid and putting more in. That's different. You don't need to run the car again and again because you won't have any fluid draining out of your torque converter and the body of the transmission. But because we took off the valve body, a whole bunch of fluid drained out, so you got to get it moving again and get this fluid sucked back into the system, and then you can get an accurate reading. So we'll put a 1/2 liter in and see what that does. So it's pretty much full at this point. I'll do it again and show you guys when it's fresh. I think a little bit of it dripped down. So you can see that I think we're full. I think we're coming up to right there. So I'm happy. So what we're gonna do is we'll probably put the cap back on. We're not gonna put the red lock in. We're gonna go drive it around and heat this thing up so that the fluid is at the 180 degrees Celsius mark, and we'll check it again with this thing, make sure that we're absolutely good. So we just took it out for a test drive. We checked it. We're at the minimum, basically. So we're just going to add in, I don't know if this is the difference between a liter or not, but I'll add in 1/2 liter, check it, and we'll go from there. Basically going to add in the rest of this. I got about 3/4 of a liter. So I'll put the rest of that in. Well, we're probably full now. We might want to start the engine again just to make sure. Okay, I think we're finally full. So now we're going to close it up. So this is what I was talking about. This goes in to here and locks it in place. So I'm going to put this in. And the reason you change it, there's an O-ring on it. That's why they want you to change it, just in case your old O-ring is kind of leaky or something. And that's what it looks like. Okay, so now it's time to clear this code. Let's go back. Clear fault code. Switch off ignition. Clear fault memory completed. Excellent. So there we go, guys. That's how you change the conductor plate on your Mercedes 722.6 transmission, which is in a whole bunch of Mercedes. It's also in Jeeps and Dodges, basically anything Daimler Chrysler from that era. So yeah, if you have any questions or comments, leave them down below, and check the description of the video for links to where you can get this package that we used. And thanks a lot for watching.